Throughout my time playing Hypixel Skyblock, I've seen a lot of suggestions from a lot of players. Everyone from the newest of nons to the most clouded of YouTubers have made suggestions that are sometimes good and sometimes not. Most of the time, these suggestions are items or updates that are significantly game-changing, but today, I have a list of update ideas that I think should be added that are not items, but are rather features in the game that would provide quality of life. Before we get too far into the video, I do want to remind you guys that you should definitely subscribe. I have some very cool plans coming up for 10,000 subscribers and for 2,000 Discord members, so join there and subscribe if you want to see more. Without much further ado, let's get right into the video. The first of these features would be really useful for anybody who's trying to sell a lot of the same item. I'm honestly very surprised that this feature hasn't been added already in some form or another, but I think this would be absolutely incredible for the auction house. If you've ever spent any reasonable amount of time trying to sell a lot of bulk items one by one, you know that it can get relatively painstaking, especially for items that don't stack. That is why I think that there should be a setting in the auction house which allows you to use previous settings. I think that what there should be is a button in the bottom right hand corner that automatically sets duration, price, and whether it's an auction or bin as the exact same as the item you just listed. That would allow you to click one button and then immediately create the auction with the exact price that you want. Not only would this be convenient, it would also save on a lot of GUI time, which you'll see is a common theme in a lot of these suggestions. In my opinion, GUI time is one of the worst parts about Hypixel Skyblock, and any changes that can be made to cut down on the amount of time you have to spend sifting through GUIs would be a welcome addition to the game. This feature would be twofold, and it would be found entirely inside the pet menu. The first half of it would be an icon in the bottom right, which would allow you to sort by different characteristics and reverse it. This part of the feature would work very similarly to the way that you can sort guild members or friends in the lobbies. There would be an icon that you can left click to filter by different characteristics, and you can right click to reverse that order. The way that the pets menu currently works is they're first sorted by rarity, with mythic being at the front and common being at the end, and then they're sorted by level, with all level 100s being first, and then finally they are sorted alphabetically. If you have a lot of level 100 pets, it will basically always look alphabetical until you start to hit pets that aren't level 100. For me, that is all the way down on my second page, and it is quite annoying if I want to try to switch to something like a squid. For me, when I squidfish, I have to take out like half of my pet menu just so I can have it on my first page. With my proposed system, you would be able to sort forward and backward by rarity, level, total XP, and then finally alphabetically. Of course, there would have to be some sort of structure, so then if you get ties, you can figure it out from there. But in my opinion, this system would be really nice just so you can play around and look at your different pets in different ways. The second half of this suggestion is actually already a feature built into some mods, but I think it would be really nice to have in the vanilla game. That would be favoriting pets. The way this would work is there would be an icon in the top right, somewhere either here or here, that would allow you to favorite pets by left-clicking on the icon and then left-clicking on which pet you want to favorite. What this would do is it would mark it with an icon to the left of their level. Then what you can do is right-click the favorite icon, and that would move all of your favorited pets up to the front, sorted then by the different settings that you have in your bottom right. Of course, this idea is mostly tailored towards players who have large pet menus, but in my opinion, all players would sort of find this useful, and really, it would just be nice to have. In its current state, the storage looks like this. There are 18 slots that can hold 18 backpacks, and that's sort of all there is. The only way to access it is either by going into your Skyblock menu and then opening up the storage, or by doing /storage or /st. In my opinion, these are pretty good features, but they're kind of cumbersome sometimes, and they sort of require you to use mods if you want to open it quickly. In my opinion, the way that this system should be implemented is there should be a settings feature inside of this icon right here. When you click it, it would do a few things. First, it would allow you to add a new storage for backpacks, which could be an upgrade bot in the bits shop. It would add an extra arrow here and here, which would allow you to flip through your storage pages to more pages that look just like this one. Of course, this really only does save one click. However, for a lot of players that are used to having backpacks in their inventory, it would be really convenient to have a way to immediately get to where all your backpacks are stored. In a similar vein, you could also have a feature that allows you to add direct shortcuts to certain backpacks inside your inventory or your hotbar. That would of course work very similarly, however, instead of just going inside of this menu and then clicking something that would give you this chest, you would have to go and click on a thing that would say give you a backpack, and that would direct you back to a mock version of here, and then from there you could click on a backpack, which would give you a backpack icon, which you could then move around in your inventory and once again hit save. With the second half of this feature, it would be almost identical to the way that old backpacks worked, with a couple of caveats. First of all, of course, you can't move backpacks outside of your inventory, and second, you could never actually drop items in backpacks or trade them. If you were to trade the items, well, first of all, it's a GUI part, so it would be kind of like trying to trade your Skyblock menu, which of course doesn't work. And second of all, you wouldn't be able to do it, even if you could, because these items don't actually store the data of other items. They just redirect to something that's already stored inside your player. The second to last suggestion that I have on this list is by far the most complicated, however, I think it would be an absolutely wonderful addition to the game that would really clear up especially the early game. The first main flaw with the recipe book is that its intended purpose should really be to help new players. What you should do with the recipe book is tell new players what items you can craft with what different materials. However, it is entirely useless for new players, as is seen by the fact that on a fresh profile, you have so few recipes unlocked that it's barely even worth counting. Of the few recipes that you start out with unlocked, most of them are either more late game items that you really wouldn't be using at the very beginning of the game, or are things that are exclusive to events, and then it really doesn't matter for an especially early game player. The annoying part about this for me is that besides having to get one singular resource, there is really nothing you have to do to be able to see basically all recipes. From the very beginning, you can see how the maxed out recipes in each collections are crafted. All you have to do is unlock that collection. However, if we then go back to the foraging collections, you can't see really any of it. There are tons of things that are just locked behind the fact that you have to unlock the collection itself. In my opinion, the only difference between the very early game recipe book and the very end game recipe book is that when you click on a certain recipe, the only difference should be that right here, instead of saying crafting table, if you haven't unlocked it, it should say you have not unlocked this recipe. Everything else should be the exact same whether you've unlocked or not unlocked it. Furthermore, it's not like you can't find these recipes already through third-party sources. Of course, in every game that has guides, there will be things that you can find all of the recipes, and for most players, all it takes is a little bit of Google searching. However, a lot of players don't know about this, and often they are severely disadvantaged, and it means that it can be very confusing to start off. By giving everybody all of the recipes to see at least and not to craft, it sort of shows people what they can go for throughout the game. The last annoying part about the recipe book to me is that there are a number of recipes that aren't included anywhere inside the recipe book. They've gotten better at this over time by adding things to the special recipes sections, but like, for example, a superior dragon helmet you can only see the recipe for by either right-clicking with a superior dragon fragment or by using the view recipe command. While both of these are fine commands and fine ways to access the recipe, I strongly believe that they should be somewhere inside the recipe book. Of course, this is not the only item that has this problem, as all dragon armors and a lot of dungeon items have this exact same issue where there is no way to see the recipe other than already having one of the recipe components. In my opinion, this could be fixed in a few ways. First of all, they could add all of these different recipes, such as Superior and things like Hyperion, to the special recipes category. Right now, the special recipes are exclusive to things that you can craft with Bits Shop items and spooky crafts, and I don't really know why this is categorized here. You could also add something like Special, and then another section called Other, and then another section which could be event-related. This could have things such as the spooky gear, and then also maybe shark-related gear that is currently housed inside of the fishing recipes. Also, oh my god, can they please get rid of the carpentry recipes section? There is one thing in it, it is the carpentry table, and all it takes is some wood, please. Before we get to the very last suggestion, I want to go over a few honorable mentions that aren't really that big, but would be extremely nice to have. This feature list would include, but would not be limited to, toggle music working on stereo pants, a way to reforge different rarities of accessories, a way to search by name and rarity by clicking on something in your inventory, and then finally a way to toggle potion effects from the Effects tab. This very last feature is actually what inspired me to make this video, and it would be a way that Hypixel could crowdsource and help out the community by helping people catch scammers and IRL traders. This feature would also be extremely useful for people who loan out a lot of items, and it would be a way to track your trade history. Just like many of the features on this list, this feature is twofold, and the first half is exclusively in-game. The way that you could access this trade history is in the top left of your Skyblock menu, and by clicking this, it would open up a menu that shows all of the players that you've recently traded with. The way that this feature would work is sort of like how we have the guest management on private islands. From there, you can open up a menu that shows you all of the different player heads that you've recently interacted with. In the guest management, it looks like this, and then you can click, and inside of the menu that would be your trade history, it would show what items you gave them and what items they gave you. It would also have in the center when it happened and on what island possibly. This part of the feature would be mostly useful for people like myself who lend out a lot of items and it's kind of tough to keep track of. It would be nice to just know when you gave what person each item, so then you can make sure to ask the right person for it back. The second half of this suggestion is really what I think makes it especially unique, and that is a way that you could track this through the Hypixel API. There are already websites such as HiAuctions that allow you to check people's auction house history, both sales and purchases. This is really nice because it sort of crowdsources the detection of IRL traders who will buy or sell items at obviously wrong prices. By adding trade history to the API, it would allow for the crowdsourcing of the exact same kind of IRL trading and scamming. However, instead of this time being only through auctions, it could also track trades. What this would allow people to do is check players who have made a lot of sketchy trades, and it would allow people to more accurately assess whether or not the person that they're trading with is a legitimate player. Of course, once again, this would also be useful for people who like lending out items because then it would let you know, hey, does this person return items that they borrow? In my opinion, Hypixel is moving in the right direction by not allowing backpacks to be tradable, which already gets rid of a large part of scamming. However, this feature would be especially nice as it could allow not only people who are trading, but also guilds and other important organizations like that to allow people to check, hey, is this person a good person in general? Before we end off this video, I do want to thank you for getting this far. I know it has been quite a complicated video at points, however, I appreciate you for sticking around and listening all the way to the end. Also, it's important to note, I am not a developer. I don't know if or how any of these features could be implemented, and I'm not claiming to, and I think that honestly there's a decent chance that some of these features just aren't possible to be added in a way that would be safe for the game. If you have any thoughts or ideas about other things that you would want to see in the game, please DM me and join my Discord server so then we can talk this sort of stuff out. This sort of stuff is really fun to me, and I think it's all super exciting. And with that, I'll see you guys later, and adios.